Hey there everyone, thank you so much for being here, thank you so much for watching. In this video I'm going to set up and configure a Synology NAS from scratch. It's been a while since I did this kind of a video, I think maybe more than 3 years. So if you're a first timer on a Synology NAS, or if you're reconfiguring an existing NAS and you want a refresh, definitely watch this video. Just a quick point here, this kind of video naturally is more geared towards the first timer or beginners. If you want to see a more complete or more advanced kind of video, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, let's get started. Alright guys, so we're at the computer and our NAS device is already ready to be configured, in terms that all the hard drives are already in the drive bays. The network cable is connected, the power cable is connected. I've pressed on the power button, so the Synology NAS powered on, booted up, and now it's ready to be configured. Now, how do we go about actually doing that? Very simple. If you know your way around your firewall or router or whatever, you might be able to get the IP address your DHCP server gave your Synology NAS. If you have that IP address, just type it in your browser. If you don't worry about it. All you have to do is to type in your browser find.synology.com. That's what I'm going to do right now. And this will launch a sort of a web-based network scanning tool that finds all Synology devices on your network. So let's give it a minute. And as you can see, it found mine. This is exactly my device here, the DS923 Plus. We can see in the status that it's not installed, so let's click on connect, agree to the EULA, click on next, and now we're actually starting the initial setup wizard, so let's click on install. Now usually almost 100% of the times I will just click next here. This will just initiate a sort of automatic download of the Synology NAS for the latest DSM version. In this case it will be DSM 7.2.1. In this specific case I'm going to manually upload the DSM pet file just because I already want to be on 7.2.2, but there's a good chance that by the time you will be watching this video, if you click next here, you will already get 7.2.2. So I'm just going to manually a pre-downloaded pet file. Let's click on next. I understand that all the data on all drives will be deleted. Alright, let's check this and click continue. In this case, it's just sort of another security step. You'll need to type the model of your device. In this case, it's DS923 Plus. Alright, click on delete. And in this step, the Synology NAS device will begin to actually install the DSM version on the device itself. This can take anywhere from 2, 3, 5 minutes. I'm going to pause the recording right here and resume it once the next step continues. Alright guys, so the process is completed and the Synology NAS in the process restarted itself. It took about 5 minutes and now we're continuing the process. Now it's launching all the built-in packages. Of course, I'm not going to rush it, I'm going to let it finish. Alright, so we're presented with the welcome to DSM 7.2. Let's click on start. Let's name our device. For the lack of a better idea, this is what I'm going to name my device. The account, in my case, it will be that. Select a password, make sure it's a very complex password. Let's click on next. Alright, I am going to automatically install imported DSM packages. Let's click on next. For now, I'm going to skip this step. I am going to use some of these features later on, but for now I'm going to click on skip. Skip anyway. Submit. I just want to, as quickly as possible, get into the DSM desktop. Again, these are applications that you might use I don't want to install applications right now, so I'm going to click on no thanks. I am going to also click on no thanks to 2FA. By the way, I am going to go back to configuring 2FA later on, but for now, no thanks. Adaptive MFA, this is something that I do recommend that you configure right now so you won't forget about it next. This will launch a sort of a 2FA sort of a mechanism if the Synology NAS identifies a login that is out of pattern. We'll maybe circle back to this later on, but for now I do recommend that you enter your recovery email address. This email address, if needed, will receive a 6-digit code that you will be presented to insert when a login out of pattern. Let's click on verify. At that point you will receive sort of an email to in your email account. I'm going to get the recovery key or the PIN code off camera. Alright, so I received a sort of an activation email on my email inbox. I clicked on a link and now I configured my adaptive MFA, which is great. Now, in DSM 7.2, the first thing you can do once you've reached your DSM desktop is to create a volume. So let's click on create now. And of course, the type of volume or the type of file system, it depends on your model and how many drives you have on your NAS. For me, I have 4 drives, so I am going to select SHR, which gives me 1 drive fault tolerance. Click on next. I'm going to select all hard drives. Click on next. I'm going to select the max amount of capacity out of all the drives. Click on next. I'm going to stick with BTRFS. By the way, for me, there isn't even a dilemma whether to go with ext4 or BTRFS. I have been using BTRFS since I started using Synology devices. It's very stable, very fast, very snappy. It supports a lot of features like quota and integrity checks, and the most important feature of them all, and it's one that I am going to talk about later on this video, is the ability to do snapshots, which is a great way to save your ass. If someone accidentally deleted something, you can just restore it just like that. So BTRFS is, in my opinion, the best way to go. Click on next. Now it's up to you if you want to encrypt this volume. If it's just in a home environment, you might want to skip that. If you're in a business environment, you might want to encrypt this volume. Now the encryption is like, if you're familiar with BitLocker for Windows computers, it's something similar to that. It protects against if someone stole your hard drives and now it tries to pull data off them, you will not be able to do it. Now I'm going to skip this step in this demonstration, but if you are going to encrypt your volume, you are going to be prompted to download a sort of a recovery key file. Now be sure to store this file off your NAS, because otherwise it will be like storing the key to the safe inside the safe. Alright, so I'm not going to do it in this case, so let's click on next, apply, and OK. Alright, so this took a minute or two, and now our storage pool is configured, and inside this storage pool our volume is configured, and we see the capacity and the file system, which is great. Now at this point, the optimizing or the creation of the sort of a RAID array can take a long time. My recommendation is to let this process finish before you start configuring anything else, although you can. But regardless, for now, before we close out of the storage manager, there are a few things that we need to configure while we are here. The first thing, we'll go to HDD SDD, click on settings, task scheduler, and we do want to at least schedule a quick smart test. By the way, the smart tests are industry standard tests, and drives from all manufacturers are compatible with it, and it's important to enable it because if a drive is about to fail, the drive will know to report it And the Synology DSM will know to alert you that one of your drives is failing or has bad sectors, etc., and you will be able to act upon it. So don't skip out on this step. So let's call it smart quick, at least quick, but I would also recommend that you create another scheduled task for an extended test. Select all supported drive, click on schedule, and I'm going to run it every month at midnight. All right, click on OK, click on apply. That's great. The other thing that I want to configure while I'm here in the storage manager, I'm sort of trying to keep everything very chronological. So let's click on the volume and we'll schedule data scrubbing. Enable the schedule, select your storage pool, repeat every 6 months. That's great. And select run later because we don't want the data scrubbing to initiate in the same moment that we click on save. Then this will tell you the next time, the next schedule of the data scrubbing. That's fine by me. Alright, so we got our volume, we got our smart test schedule, we got our scrubbing scheduled. At this point we're done with storage manager. And so our next stop will be the package center, and we already see that we get a sort of a red badge here, meaning there's an update ready for us. So let's click on the package center, click OK, installed. There's an update. Let's click on update. I'm not going to install any applications at this point. I'm going to circle back to the package center once I finished a few other tasks. I just wanted to get rid of this badge so it won't annoy me. The next step will be for us is to configure a static IP address. Our Synology NAS is a sort of an important storage center for a network, and we don't want its IP address to change. So let's click on network, click on network interface, click on the interface that's connected on your device, and click on edit. Instead of DHCP, we'll select manual. By the way, if it suits you, you can use the same IP address, but I recommend setting an IP address that is outside of your DHCP scope. So for me, it will be this IP address. Everything else stay the same: the subnet mask, the default gateway, the DNS server, everything is the same. Click OK. And now as part of the process, the browser will refresh to the new IP address if it's a different one, and will continue once this is complete. Alright, it's done, and I didn't have to do anything. The browser just refreshed itself using the correct IP address in the address bar. That's great. And now, while we're already in our control panel, let's go and start configuring the most, let's say, basic security settings that you don't want to miss. So let's click on security. Make sure everything else on your device is checked like you see here. These are the most default basic settings. So if you see something missing here, go ahead and check it. Let's go into account and now expand the account protection section right here and enable account protection. What this will do is it will sort of lock the NAS upon 5 failed login attempts within 1 minute. Click on apply. Let's go to firewall. Now, I'm not going to configure my firewall on this specific device just because it's a video on its own, but I am going to link in the top right corner of this video a wonderful, super great video made by my friend Frank from WunderTech. So if you want to enable your firewall on your device, which I recommend, go ahead and watch that video and subscribe to his channel because he is great. Moving on to protection. make sure auto block is enabled, but also expand the denial of service and enable DOS protection. Click on apply. And now it's time to create some shared folders. This is the main usage of our NAS, to create shared folders and access them and get data on them. So click on shared folder, click on create shared folder, and let's give our shared folder the name demo. Select the volume. In this case, I have only one volume. So let's click on next. I'm going to skip. I'm not going to encrypt anything here, but I am going to enable data integrity and checksum. File compression, why not? Click on next. Select if you want to give permissions. By the way, we will create other users in this demonstration, but for now all we need to do is to click apply, and we have a shared folder created. In just a few minutes I will show you how to interact with this shared folder, meaning how to place data on it or get data from it. The next thing that I want to do is to actually create a user, because the user that I'm using might not be the one that you want other people on your network to use. So if you have another family member or an employee, you can create a user for him. So let's click on create. Name, let's call it demo123, why not? Give it a password and click on next. Now you decide if this user needs or doesn't need to be part of the administrators group. If you do want this user to have administrative privileges, you will check the administrators here. This will add the new user to the administrators group. Let's click on next. Now in this step, you can select if you want to individually assign this user any access to shared folders you created. In this specific case, if you recall, I added this user to the administrators group, meaning that by default, this user will have access to all the shared folders on this device. But if I hadn't added this user to the administrators group, and I wanted him to have access to the demo shared folder, I will assign it either read and write or read only. It's up to you. Now I am going to add it to the administrators group, so by default he will gain access. Click on next, 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 and done. I don't want this user to have any restrictions or quotas or whatever, and we have our first user created. If you need to create more, you will create them in the exact same way. Great. Now let's, at least for now, close out of control panel and go to our package center. Now there are a lot of packages we can install, and definitely Synology has a lot of packages for you to choose from. Backup applications, media applications. There are applications that I already have videos on my channels describing them in depth, for example, Active Backup for Business. In this specific case, the only application that I do want to actually spend time on is Snapshot Replication, because I do think it's an important part of our data protection. So here's Snapshot Replication. Click on install. Yes. And it will take just a minute to install. The Snapshot Replication application will allow us to create snapshots of our shared folders. So we're done. Let's click on the main menu right here and Snapshot Replication. Do not show this again, of course. Now let's go to snapshots, and here's our shared folder. Click on settings, and we do want to enable a schedule. We want snapshots to be taken every X amount of time. For me, daily at around 1 AM every day. Immutable snapshots is a sort of a more advanced topic where snapshots are taken and cannot be deleted. Retention, I'm going to keep all the snapshots for 7 days. Click on OK. OK. That's great. What's great about snapshots is that it allows you to recover or restore files if they're accidentally deleted, but the snapshots themselves do not take any extra space. Meaning, if nothing was changed from one snapshot to another, the second snapshot will not take any space at all, which is great. Another thing that Snapshot Replication can do, but will not get into this in this video, is to replicate shared folders from one device to another, either on-site or off-site, which is a great way to sort of keep business going even when one site has some sort of technical issues, which is great. Alright, so before moving forward, let's see how this snapshot mechanism works. Now, since configuring this, I've already given some time for a snapshot to happen, but we can also take a manual snapshot, which I already did. And if we look inside our shared folder, we can see that we have a file, a single file existing over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this file. And now if I want to use the snapshot mechanism to recover this file, all I have to do, let's close out of here. Let's go to the recovery tab right here. This is our shared folder, and let's click on the recover button. And here we will see a list of snapshots based on the time they were taken. Now, right here I can already, if I want, restore to this snapshot, if I want to restore the entire shared folder. But if I want to recover only a single file and not everything else, I can also browse the snapshot, select my file, and from here it's just a matter of copying it to my shared folder. And just like that, if I'll go back to File Station, I can see the file already here. By the way, snapshots are also visible from right here. You can see the snapshots and you can browse to them. So whichever method, whichever route you want to take, you will get to this recovery option. Again, a great tool to almost instantly recover data that was maybe accidentally deleted. Alright, moving on, we've configured everything down to the network layer or to the security layer. We have installed applications that interests us. But the next thing that I want to talk about is how to access your Synology device even if you're not on your network. Now, there's a lot of options here. Some of them are more advanced, like, I don't know, VPN and, I don't know, dynamic DNS, and ports need to be open. This topic on itself is, I know, about an hour video on its own. I'm going to touch on the most basic and the most easy to interact with option, which is Quick Connect. So let's click on External Access, and as a Synology NAS owner, you're allowed to use Quick Connect free of charge. So just click on Enable Quick Connect. You will need to create, if you don't have already, a Synology account. So let's click on OK. If you don't have a Synology account, go ahead and create one now. I'm going to use the one that I already have. Alright, now we're logged in and we now need to select our Quick Connect ID string. This string needs to be unique. So let's call it Demo DS923, and let's hope this is unique enough. Let's click on Apply. Great, it's initializing. Great. Now, keep note of the Quick Connect string that you've selected, and I'll just show you for a minute how to interact with this string. By the way, this string can be used if you install Synology applications on your mobile phone. You can select the Quick Connect ID if you need to, for example, enter the server address. But in a browser, if you're located anywhere else in the globe outside your network, just click on, go to your favorite search provider and search for Quick Connect. The first result will always take you to Synology Quick Connect. Here you will just need to provide the quick connect string you've just configured. Click connect, and this service will just proxy you from Synology servers right into your own Synology DSM device. That's a great option, free of charge. Alright, so we've configured our NAS, our volume, our network, our applications, our security settings, and one thing that we don't want to forget doing is to schedule the emptying of recycle bins. Much like in Windows, Synology NAS shared folders also have recycle bins in some cases, and we need to create sort of a scheduled task to empty them. Let's go to task scheduler, schedule task, recycle bin. Let's call it bin empty, schedule. I don't mind running it daily, I don't mind it at all. Test settings, make sure it's configured to empty all recycle bins. Click on OK, click on yes, and forget about it. Now almost the last thing that I want to do, which is also in some cases can be considered a security setting. Go into your login portal, and as you can see, by default port 5000 is the port that the Synology web interface runs on, or 5001 if you're using HTTPS. This is the default, everyone knows it, even hackers already know it. So whatever you do, do not use these default ports, change them to anything else, just not the default ones, because malicious attacks coming from the outside will target these ports, I can assure you. So instead of using 5000, use 6000 or 7000 or 8000, whatever you do, just not the default ones. So I changed it to 8000 and 8001, click on save. It will restart the web interface, but now it will be on the new port. Alright, so now my DSM web interface has refreshed and now it's using the new port. Let me just quickly show you. Now it's 8000, which is great. Alright, there are a few other settings that I just recommend that you enable. Just go to control panel, file services, and click on advanced. The first thing that we want to enable is file fast clone, which can make the NAS snappier when it comes to copying blocks of data. Scroll down and select enable bypass traverse checking. In certain cases, when you want to access a shared folder that's inside of a shared folder, then you only have permissions on this subfolder. You might want to enable the bypass traverse checking in order to allow the users to successfully access their sub-folders. So click on apply, and actually in this step we're done configuring our NAS from 0 to being completely usable. Now there's a lot more we can do. We are just scratching the surface. There are a lot more advanced things you can do. We are not going to cover them in this video. If you want to see a more advanced version of configuring a NAS from scratch, let me know in the comments below. But I do want to circle back to something that I wanted to show on once you've created a shared folder, how do you interact with it, at least in Windows operating system. So I'm going to quickly switch to a virtual machine I have for demonstration purposes, and I'll show you exactly what to do next. Alright, here's our virtual machine. It's a regular Windows virtual machine, nothing special about it. And in order to interact with our Synology NAS and the data on it, just click on File Explorer and just / and the IP address of your Synology NAS. At this point you might have a prompt asking you to authenticate to your NAS device. So let's click the username and password of our admin account or whatever account that has access to data on the NAS. And here's our shared folder right here. We can access it and we can even create, I don't know, a document on it. Let's select a text document, name it whatever, and type whatever you want on it. That's great, meaning that we can interact with the data on our NAS. Another option that I know that a lot of people do like is to map a shared folder on your NAS as a network drive. So in this case, it's just a matter of selecting the three dots, map a network drive. Again, type the IP address of your NAS, select browse, select the folder, okay, finish, and that's it. And now this shared folder is a network drive on our Windows computer, which is great and very convenient. Alright, so let me close out of here. Let's disconnect our drive. Let me close out of here and go back to our NAS. And now if we'll go into File Station, we can see the text file right here. Alright guys, so with that we are finished configuring our NAS actually from zero to have it usable, secure, and functional. Of course, as I said, there's a lot more we can do that's outside the scope of this video. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see an advanced version of configuring a NAS, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you all in my next video. Bye everyone, thanks for joining.